Welcome to VDI and End-User Computing Engineering. Before we touch a single portal or protocol, we need shared vocabulary, because the words VDI, RDS, application virtualization, and DaaS get used interchangeably in the real world even though they mean very different things architecturally. In this lesson we'll pin down each term precisely, walk through the short history that explains why today's products look the way they do, and cover the concrete business reasons organizations are investing in VDI and EUC in 2026. True VDI means every user is assigned their own virtual machine running its own copy of a desktop operating system, almost always Windows 11 Enterprise today. That isolation is expensive, because you're paying for a full OS instance per person, but it buys you two things: the widest possible application compatibility, since anything that runs on a real desktop OS runs here, and a hard isolation boundary, so one user's crash or malware cannot reach another user's session. Session-based computing, historically called terminal services and today remote desktop services, puts many users on a single shared Windows Server operating system, each getting an isolated session rather than an isolated machine. It's dramatically cheaper per user, but application compatibility is narrower and a resource-hungry process can degrade things for everyone on that host. Azure Virtual Desktop's signature capability, Windows 11 Enterprise Multi-Session, blends this session-based economics with a genuine client OS experience. Application virtualization is a different axis entirely. Instead of delivering a full desktop, it packages and delivers individual applications, isolated from the underlying operating system. Think MSIX App Attach or Remote App publishing on Azure Virtual Desktop. This is usually layered on top of VDI or RDS rather than competing with them. You might publish only a line of business app and Excel to a contractor instead of handing them an entire desktop. DaaS, Desktop as a Service, is not a different way of rendering a screen. It's a consumption and ownership model. In classic on-premises VDI, you own and operate the hypervisor, broker, gateway, and storage yourself. In DaaS platforms like Windows 365, Citrix DaaS, and Omnissa Horizon Cloud, a vendor owns and runs most or all of that control plane, and you consume desktops as a subscription. Windows 365 goes furthest, offering fixed-price cloud PCs with zero infrastructure for you to size or patch. You don't need exact dates memorized, but you do need the shape of the story. Citrix WinFrame first added multi-user session sharing to Windows NT. Microsoft then licensed that technology, and it grew into terminal services and eventually remote desktop services. Next came the hypervisor VDI era, where one virtual machine per user went mainstream on-premises. And finally the cloud DaaS era we're in now, starting with Azure Virtual Desktop in 2019 and Windows 365 in 2021. With Citrix and Omnissa both shipping cloud control planes of their own. One naming note that trips people up: VMware's end-user computing business, including Horizon, was spun out as an independent company called Omnissa in 2024, later acquired by KKR. Citrix, meanwhile, operates under a parent company called Cloud Software Group. Both vendors still offer on-premises and cloud-delivered options side by side. We'll go deep on every platform's architecture in Module 2, for now, just recognize the current names. Now the business case. Hybrid work means employees expect a consistent desktop whether they're at home, in the office, or at a client site, without IT re-imaging a laptop for every scenario. But the bigger driver is data egress control. In VDI and DaaS, data never leaves the data center, only encrypted pixels, audio, and input events cross the network. A lost or compromised device exposes nothing, because nothing was ever stored on it. That single property is why finance, healthcare, defense, and government treat VDI as core infrastructure, not just a remote access convenience. Standing up a virtual desktop or cloud PC for a short-term contractor takes minutes through an existing provisioning workflow, with no hardware to procure, image, ship, or recover, and it's trivially revocable the moment the engagement ends. Regulated industries get a second benefit. Centralizing desktops makes patching, logging, session recording, and access reviews consistent and auditable across the whole fleet, instead of trusting thousands of physically dispersed endpoints to individually stay compliant. A newer and fast-growing driver is GPU and AI workstation demand. CAD, media production, and AI or machine learning development increasingly need GPU-backed compute that's expensive to put on every employee's desk as dedicated hardware. GPU-enabled VDI lets an organization centralize that expensive hardware in the data center or cloud and allocate it on demand, rather than buying a workstation-class GPU for every specialist. We'll cover the specific Azure GPU VM families and licensing considerations in Module 2. To recap, VDI, session-based RDS, application virtualization, and DaaS are different design axes, not interchangeable synonyms, and knowing which one you're talking about changes cost, compatibility, and compliance conversations. The short history explains why today's products look the way they do. And 5 concrete drivers: hybrid work, data egress control, contractor agility, regulated compliance, and GPU or AI workloads, are why organizations keep investing here in 2026. In the next lesson, we open up the box and look at the architecture every one of these platforms shares underneath its branding: the broker, the gateway, the session hosts, and the profile layer.